right. And broadcast. So we are now live. Give it a second here as it clicks over. All right. Take it away, Vern.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome, 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 welcome. We've got a great event set up for you tonight. We're going to be showing you how to set up joint ventures and how to work all of the legal agreements, everything that you need from start to finish. Every time you're looking at a property, investigating it, everything that we have in our coaching kits to help you do joint ventures and legal agreements. Who are we? We're the largest and we're the only free real estate club here in Manitoba. We're a community of like-minded individuals, investors of all different types. Whether you're looking at single-family homes, multifamily, commercial properties, really doesn't matter. We have something that can help all of you. We have all of the different service providers that you would need. Those who want to learn and can learn from experts in the marketplace. And you can see right on your panel here, we've got a house full of experts here. The Team-Made Real Estate Academy, we have over 150 students in our company nationwide, and we're also international into the US as well, with US partners and coaches there as well. Okay. Now, a little bit about what we do, and as opposed to events and stuff. With this event here you're seeing tonight, we give free monthly events like this. Before COVID, like BC, before COVID, we were doing them live. Now we do them on Zoom, and we get out a lot of information very, very quickly. We also do workshops on any type of topic that you want to look in regarding real estate investing or commercial investing. We help you with bus tours. We help you build your power team, select your power team, tap right into it, showing you joint ventures, networking events that we do. We show you how to find the money that you need, and we show you how to find the deals that fit your business model. The Academy itself is giving out a post-secondary education. We have programs that are in like a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or a PhD in real estate investing. That's what we do. We assure you get your first deal done every single time, plus many, many more. There's no catch and release. Like, we don't just sell you a program and let you go and you're on your own. We follow through with you from start to finish on every deal that you do. There's no annual fee. There's one-on-one mentorship. Sometimes 2 or 3 on 1, 2 or 3 coaches. Field training. We do field training with you in and out of every property that you look at to help you analyze the cost of fixing it and bringing it up to market value to make sure that you make a profit every single time. We do a lot of our training is, in fact, most of our training is on video, audio trainings, and you become part of the family, part of our community. We will be showing you the brochure a little bit to show you what it's about. A little bit here on who we are, what we can do for you. We have lifetime memberships, and our coaches are lifetime coaches. We're not just there for a few hours. We are with you for the life of the Academy, or the life that you're busy and active and need us. And that's what we do. Here you can see on our brochure on the back, there are different things that we ask people. Whether you're looking to buy, fix, sell, rehabs, buy and hold, rentals, buy, fix, refinance, rent out, and repeat, the BRRRR model. We do all of those things: rent to own, leasing properties, owning them, financing them, joint ventures. These are the things that I suggested earlier. Why do we go ahead and guarantee you your first deal done? Okay. We found with using our advisors, applying our knowledge and applying it in the field, we teach you the academics of investing, and then we show you how to apply it in the field. However, Experience comes with doing it. What you see here on your panel is well over 100 years of experience. 100 years of experience. That's what we bring to the table. We show you how to gain the confidence by getting that first deal done with you and repeating the process over and over and over, and it creates momentum for you. You'll be hearing some stories tonight about people where the momentum has really kicked in. In fact, one of our newer coaches, Investor of the Month as well, Patrick, is with us tonight. You'll be hearing stuff about him. And we show people the difference in a short-term membership or a lifetime membership. We introduce you to our chat support system. We are using Telegram. We use Facebook groups, and we show you all about those and how you can do that. Now, part of what we're going into, a lot of people feel, well, I can't do this, I can't do that, different reasons for it. And a lot of times we think, well, we just can't do that. We can't get up that big hill. Because this young lady here, she's lifting over her head, looks like about 200 and...
It's over double her body weight.
Yeah, over double her body weight. And she just didn't walk out there and pick that up and throw it up there. You look at her form, look at her structure. Someone coached and mentored her. This is what we need. This is what helps us limit. We remove the limits on your abilities to succeed. We remove the mental blocks. We help you with that. Your thoughts limit your ability to succeed. We help you to see a future lifestyle for yourself. And then we help you to design it. And we work with you to achieve the lifestyle that you want. We make your lifestyle happen, not ours, your lifestyle. That's what we do, okay? Next one, design your lifestyle, okay? Why do I invest? Right there, those pictures say it all. That's who I am. My wife and I live a very, very blessed life. I bought my first house when I was 19 years old, and I've been active in several states in Manitoba over the decades. And that one picture there on the right was us in a marathon in Las Vegas, a running marathon. We're marathon runners. And that was November 12th, 2017. That picture right there was us crossing the finish line 2.5 hours after getting married at mile 4 and finishing the race as husband and wife. That's who we are. We're also actors. We've been in several movie productions and television series. And this is what I really get a lot of joy out of, is working with people like yourselves and seeing the changes in you as you start to achieve the lifestyle that you want, that you desire, and help you create generational wealth. That's what we're going to do. Got some sponsor shout outs. Did you want to do this one, Keith?
Sure. Well, I'll just mention that the names here in italics are actually going to appear later in the presentation. Yeah. So I will skip over Daryl, Brendan, and Garrett because they're actually in attendance this evening. Those not in attendance include Jazz Sayani from J. Sayani Chartered Accountants at Chambers Fraser. Our good friend Ray Penner, the amazing photographer from Ray Penner Photography. Christian Narcisco from Visual Media. Alvin Bally at Caesarstone Canada and Dulux Paints by PPG. And one of our coaches, Michael Reimer and Corey Vlaming from Vulcan Construction. So now we're going to pass it over to our good friend and sponsor, Daryl Walsh, with the April Realtor Report.
Take it away, Daryl.
Thank you, gentlemen, ladies, whoever's here. I can only see the coaches. I can't see the audience participation. So I'm sure there's a few ladies out there. First slide, there we go. We hit on this time and time again, perseverance. Getting involved in this takes a little bit of effort, but believe me, anybody that wants to do this can do this. My job here tonight is to provide you with market statistics and to tell you how to get a good deal. I'm going to leave that up to the coaches, but I can run the numbers to tell you if it's a good deal or if it's a bad deal. This is an overall presentation of our residential detached houses in Winnipeg. And it goes from the cheapest house right at the bottom there. What do we got? Just under up to $99,000. And it goes all the way up to $1 million or more. And it shows you the market segment where the most sales are being made, where the most purchases are being made, and the largest segment there, or one of the largest segments, looks like it's between $500,000 and $750,000. What does that say for us as investors, depending on your strategy? If you're doing a BRRRR, if you're doing a flip, if you're doing a multifamily, there's money to be made at every level, even the $100,000 and under, up to the $1 million properties. So let's go to the next slide. And this is our snapshot as a whole, and this is for March. We can see that the amount of detached houses, attached houses, and condominiums. We have the average listings that are up there. The sales that took place, we actually had more sales than listings we had on the detached houses. The average sale price is $384,000. We're going to get into that a little bit deeper in the next couple of slides. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, these are our condo sales. So good news for people that have held condos as either investments or have been sitting on them and the condo market has been flat forever. If we look at those numbers, average price over last year has gone up 5.2%. That's a nice return. Average sales over last year, 82%. That's a huge number of sales. So the condo market is looking good. We're getting 9% new condo listings this year than we did last year. So it's just positive, proof positive that the condo market is good. In real estate, we say, you know what, it's probably the best investment you'll ever make. You just have to hold it sometimes a little bit longer, and condos have been proof of that. We're going to go to the next slide, please. Here's our condo sales and activity. This is for the month of March, and I want you to pay attention to the average price. In each one of these, we're going to do condos, we're going to do detached, and we're going to do attached houses because those numbers are important. So we got an average sale price of $248,000 with an average square footage of 1,048. So we're going to go to the next slide. Okay, so this is year to date. So the month of March, our price actually went up quite a bit, 241,461. Yeah, that's fine. Go back to 248. So that went up almost $8,000 in 1 month, the average condo sale prices. So based on a $250,000 sale price, what's $8,000? Who's the math wizards? I can call on my friend Nelson. He's good at math. Oh, you're muted. That's okay, Nelson. We'll move on to the next slide. I'll quiz you on your math on the next one. Residential attached.
3%.
Sorry?
3%, Daryl. It went up 3% in 1 month.
That's a pretty good return, wouldn't you say? Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So again, we're going to pay attention to these top numbers, the average prices. This is for the month of March, $313,338. These are for residential attached. So these are going to be your side-by-sides in your townhouses. Average square footage is interesting to know, but 1,291. Okay, 313.38. Go to the next one. So year to date, average was 303. Go back one slide. Pretty good increase. That's a very nice increase in 1 month. This is for March. Wait till you see April stats. I get to track them on the back end, but I don't have these lovely graphics for you. Okay, we're going to go to the next slide. And here's our residential detached. And this is what a lot of people are investing in. This is the month of March. 384,773 is our average price, 1,398 square feet. probably a 3-bed, 2-bath, finished basement, et cetera, et cetera. And again, this is average. So this is everything from the low end to the high end, our average sale price. Let's go to our year to date, 370. So it's gone up $14,000 in 1 month. So for those of us that are doing the BRRRR, great opportunity. For those of us that are sitting on these properties, that have held these properties, somebody's probably going to touch on HELOC and home equity line of credit. I'm not going to touch on that. I'm going to let the coaches talk about that. But this is a great example of how you can leverage the properties that you've purchased and what you can do with that to springboard you into your next property. Let's go to the next slide. This is a snapshot. Now I've got everybody's faces covering all of my slides, so I'm just going to minimize this here. So very condensed snapshot. It shows you the average price, and this is year to date. Look at the change in the average price of single residential detached, 16.2% year to date. That's a heck of a return. Every one of those numbers on there. I'm looking at the year to date change year over year. If you're looking at the condominiums, you're up 5.2%. Single attached townhouses, 7.4%. Sorry, townhouses, 33.1%. Is real estate a good thing to invest in? The answer is always yes. We're going to go one more slide. Now, I put these slides together to inspire people. I want you to dream big. I want you to work with your team, your squad. Guess what? It's going to take a lot of hard work, but in the end, you're going to be successful. My name is Daryl Walsh. Thanks for having me out here, guys. If anybody needs any information, feel free to email me, text me, call me. I will get back to you, whatever you need. Thank you, and I will turn it back to our MC.
Well, thank you, Daryl. It was very nice. Keith, do we have a property update from Garrett?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yep.
So, you want to own a rental property? My name's Garrett Wong, owner of Upper Edge Property Management, and in this segment, we're going to be diving into the concept of equity. For more info on this series and why I'm doing them, please see our first intro video for details. There'll be a link below. We've got no coaching fees here, no gimmicks, no teasers, no promise of larger courses you have to purchase, pure content that you can use in 2 minutes or less. All right, let's get into it. What is equity? Well, the dictionary, and I looked this up, would say it's the quality of being fair and equal. Or there's another definition there, the value of the shares issued by a company. So we're getting a little bit closer. But really what we're talking about for equity is assets minus liabilities. Now, assets minus liabilities, this is how we calculate the value of a company, but guess what? A rental property is a business. You have to think about it as a business as well. And this is the most important lesson that I hope this series is going to teach you. So how does the concept of assets minus liability translate for rental property? It's quite simple. So an asset is what the property is worth. The market value is normally what we look at when we're talking about property value. For liabilities, it's what you owe on the property to the bank. And that most people understand is the mortgage. Now, if you're lucky enough not to have a mortgage, and then you only have the one number to worry about, which would be the market value. But if you don't owe anything on the mortgage, you're not taking advantage of leverage, which is the #1 rule in real estate, OPM, or other people's money. But we'll discuss more on that in a future segment. What did we learn in this segment? Well, equity is not an invisible thing. It's something that you can own, you can touch. If you're in a stable market, it will continue to build wealth for you in real estate for years and years. And the next segment, what we're going to be talking about next is cash flow, or rather, what is cash flow? If you want to be notified when the next segment is released, just hit that like and subscribe button and you'll be notified. Hope you enjoyed this segment, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Garrett.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Next segment. Keith, did you want to do your mindset minute here?
Sure.
Okay.
So back in January for the new year, we actually had a presentation that was based entirely on mindset. It was a little off the ordinary for a real estate investing academy, but it was very successful, and a lot of people really liked it. And so we've kept a mindset segment in here. So we're just going to get a little philosophical for a second. We're going to talk about the fact that right now, whatever you're doing, you're actually giving up part of your life to do it. You've only got so many days in your life. So every day you're giving up one of those days. So you want to make it count. Now you might say, what constitutes a successful life? Well, a successful life in aggregate is simply a series of days that have been successful, to try and make every day as successful as possible. Now, how do you make a successful day? It's not the number of things that you're able to do in the day, the number of meaningless things that you can cram in, but it's the efficiency of each thing that you do. So one of the key ways to do this, and it was something that was brought to Napoleon Hill's attention and that he emphasizes in Think and Grow Rich, is you want to list 6 things. Then you want to put those 6 things that you need to do towards your goal. You want to prioritize them so that the number one thing towards achieving your goal is first on the list. Then you focus on doing number 1 to completion before moving on. Now, why do you do this? Because you're making the decision to work towards your goal. In making the decision, you are removing doubt, fear, worry, and you're bringing order to your life. Now, the law of cause and effect will guarantee from that you achieve success. And we have a short video from the man, Napoleon Hill, where he talks about just this very thing.
Everyone, my friends, I suppose, desires to be rich. But not everyone knows what constitutes enduring riches. And most people believe riches to consist only in the material things that money can buy. Let me disillusion you on that subject by giving you an outline of the 12 great riches of life. Number 1, a positive mental attitude. That stands at the head of the list of all of the riches of life. Number 2, sound physical health. And number 3, harmony in all of your human relations. Number 4, freedom from fear. Number 5, the hope of future achievement. Number 6, the capacity for applied faith. Number 7, a willingness to share your blessings with others. And number 8, to be engaged in a labor of love. Number 9, an open mind on all subjects toward all people. Number 10, complete self-discipline. And there's a whole foundation of philosophy in that one alone, complete self-discipline. And number 11, the wisdom with which to understand people. And number 12, financial security. Note that it comes last. There are 11 other things which may be used as a foundation upon which to make proper use of money. And without these other 9 things, money can be just as dangerous as it can be helpful. Observe that money is the last thing on the list. 11 other riches precede it, without which money can become a curse and nothing more. Study these 12 great riches carefully and observe that not one of them can be attained without the application of a positive mental attitude. That is why it leads the list. In the lesson on a pleasing personality, you will observe also that a positive mental attitude heads the list of the 31 traits which give one a pleasing personality. And I thank you.
Thank you, Keith. I always enjoy that. Okay.
Thank you, Vern. Well, you expound that more than anyone else I know. So.
Oh, thank you so much. You're very kind. Okay, let's get on with our guest speaker for the night. It gives me great pleasure to work with Brendan Mahatu, setting up joint ventures and legal agreements. If you're ready to go, Brendan, take it away.
I am ready to go. Hopefully this angle and lighting isn't too painful for anybody. I realize the best lighting in my place tends to be in my bathroom, but I'd rather not be a lawyer giving a presentation beside a toilet at this point. But hopefully this is okay. I set something up in my little office here at home. So yeah, I just wanted to note everything I'm going to go over tonight is information versus advice. If you need legal advice, give me a call or send me an email. Very happy to be here. Thanks for having me, teammate. My name is Brendan Mahatu. I'm a lawyer at Levine, Tabman Golub Law Corporation. Bit of a mouthful there, so I usually just tend to say Levine Tabman. Just going to be presenting a bit on some of the teammate real estate agreements here. I'm going to try to not go through everything exactly to the word line by line, but rather give you a Cole's Notes version of something. Typically when I meet with clients, I try to keep things to a reasonable level of expectation. Otherwise my meetings would run, instead of 30 minutes, 3 hours. But sort of like handing you a document saying, here's 30 pages of a disclosure from the bank. Do you want to know what it says? If you don't pay your mortgage, the bank will take your house. Pay your mortgage. Don't worry about these 30 pages, but I have to give them to you and explain their consequence, that kind of thing. So without further ado, move over to my next slide and we'll jump right in here. So joint venture agreements. Typically, when I see people doing joint venture agreements, of course, what does the word joint mean? 2 or more. So you're partnering with someone to perform a project. You're either going to be renovating a property and selling it afterwards, purchasing it and holding it for a while, renting it out. Perhaps you're planning on holding it for a long period of time, a short period of time. Maybe you just want to give it a shot on your first go, but you're not really sure about the person that you're partnering with. Maybe they have a higher level or lower level of experience, depending on the transaction. But a joint venture agreement basically outlines the terms of everything that you and your partner and or partners are going to be going through together. So to start, at the beginning of your agreement, you have your contracting parties. Well, what is a contract? I'm going to go right back to my first day of law school when Professor Sharif said to us, what are the 3 elements of the contract, which are offer, acceptance, and consideration. Consideration can be anything from $1 to $20 million to $2 billion to whatever the amount may be. Whatever the value is you're placing, that's your consideration. Offer is actually the agreement, and acceptance is signing thereof. So continuing on, you want to make sure that you have your contracting parties correct. One thing I would say when it comes to joint venture agreements is I've had clients phone me and say, hey, Brendan, I'm signing a joint venture agreement with a lady or a gentleman next week. I'd like you to review it just so I understand, so you can explain to me what it is that I'm signing, what are the consequences, so forth and so forth. I've been sent my own joint venture agreement that I did for a client 2 years ago, probably about 7 times now to review, because someone borrowed it and adapted it and reused it, repurposed it. Totally fine. Everybody proceed at your own risk. I would say that having a lawyer review your joint venture agreements or any agreements that you have between yourself and anyone else, whether it's joint venture, bare trust, we'll get to those hopefully later on if I don't talk too long on this first one. But typically it's going to be a cost benefit analysis. So I hate to equate lawyers to doctors because doctors are saints and lawyers tend to be maybe not so much as close to that. But if you have a headache, maybe let's drink a glass of water and take an Advil. If you have a headache for a month and it's persisting and it's causing you worry, then you might want to go see the doctor. I would apply the same level of risk tolerance, to the best of my knowledge, to real estate investing. If you're going through an agreement, there's some contention, you're not sure about this clause or this clause, are you willing to spend maybe $1,000, $1,500, $500, depending whatever it might be to the level of review? Are you willing to spend that to have a lawyer review it and advise you on the legalities and consequences of signing it? I would leave that up to you. Typically, the joint venture agreement that I'm seeing from TeamMade, I don't review these that often, but when I do, I can advise on them and so forth. But beyond that, it's a fairly to the point agreement. What are we doing? Who are we doing it with? What's our timeframes? What's our goals? What's the end game? Hiring a lawyer to review it is a great idea, but it also goes with your costs depending on what investment you're making. Are you buying a 24-unit apartment complex with someone for $1.5 million? Yeah, probably a decent idea to spend $1,000 to have a lawyer say, yeah, you're not going to get screwed by this agreement in particular. So that's always a great idea. So anyways, jumping in, I will go to definitions on the first slide. You definitely want to make sure that you have everything that is listed off in the agreement here. You don't want to have any discrepancies as to what did I mean by agreement? What did I mean by contracting party? What did I mean by project? Project can mean a number of things. Project could be just the external renovation of a project property for, you know, renovating it and then selling it thereafter for a higher price. That could be a project, doesn't specify if it means the interior and exterior. So definitions tend to be a great idea to make sure that everybody who's signing is on the same page. So getting all of those hammered down is a great way to make sure that everybody is on the same page. I'll move over to the next slide. In terms of description of the joint venture, this is kind of where you lay out everything that's going to have an impact on what you're doing going forward. So making sure that you're referencing future sections, previous sections. For example, you might have a clause that states as per definitions in section 1, sub C, or whatever the case may be. You want to make sure that that is laid out. What is it that you are proceeding with? It's a partnership, two people coming together. They are going to purchase and own, or one of them is going to purchase and the other one's going to hold it for them, whatever the case may be. That's what you want to do. Lay out the general skeleton of what it is that you're going to be doing, and the rest of the future clauses are going to put on the muscle to that. So next,
Brendan, can I just ask a question here?
Oh, for sure.
This is something that comes up all the time, is actually 2.2 there, where nothing herein shall be construed as creating a partnership, general or limited. And I know that all the time we tend to talk in real estate about having our partners, right? But from the legal standpoint, we're not partners most of the time. We're trying to establish a joint venture, so we're joint ventures. Is that, am I interpreting that correctly?
You are correct, Keith. So in this, when I use partnership, I mean the person you're proceeding with. The word partnership is a very weird one. Typically, when I try to describe my 31-year-old girlfriend, I say partner, and then people start to think, oh, is he talking about someone at his law office that he's a partner with? Is he talking about whoever it may be? Then I try to go with significant other, which just seems so formal. I might as well be saluting Lindsay when she walks through the door when she comes home from work. But in terms of partnership, you are quite right. Joint venture means that you are parties that have the same goal, but you are separate. A partnership would be meaning that you would both have shared liabilities, whereas joint ventures tend to try to stray away from those. You want to be, of course, both liable within the property that you're moving forward on, but you also want to be separate from all of your other stuff. So, for example, probably don't want your family farm on the chopping block in case this thing doesn't work. So typically joint ventures are good for that. Make sure you have the right clauses. Give me a call, give any competent lawyer a call. There's lots of them out there, not just including me, even though sometimes I like to think that I'm the only one. But yeah, you are quite right in that. Any other questions at this point?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, I would move on to real estate investment. So when you're purchasing a property, you want to make sure that you get notice of anything that's happening, any changes, budgets. So specifically, I'm going to go to clause 3.1. This one seems to anticipate renovating a property. So a budget is actually a very important thing. Who would have thought? You definitely, sometimes it depends what you prefer, but written notice, I tend to prefer. Verbal notice is all the more great, but sometimes I kind of like having something in writing. It allows you to proceed on the basis that, hey, I can pull this piece of paper out and say, hey, you said this, versus, hey, on this date, you said this out loud to me. So there's that element of things. Budgets are extremely important. I'm currently working on a file where I am at a 4th mortgage for a client who is helping out a buddy do reno on a project. The costs keep going up and up and up. Of course, the economy changes back and forth. You never know with whatever president, softwood lumber, whatever the case may be. But I'm currently registering a 4th mortgage on a property for someone because this project's been ongoing for about a year and 6 months. So we're now funding for the 4th time. I'm very interested to see what happens after this. I'm hoping to goodness, despite the fact that it will give me an extra legal fee, but I'm hoping this is the last one we have to do. But budgets are a great way to make sure that you have a framework for what you're doing going forward. Having it in the agreement is great as well. Typically, again, I would prefer written notice to either a preferred address or a law firm's address. A lot of people use my office as an address for service when they're doing business. Just depends on that, but give me a shout on that when I can go into more detail on the consequences of that. In terms of clause 3.3, it depends. This one talks about once the project budget is in place, things being payable, just want to make sure you have your financing in place or anything else that you're doing if you're going to be funding something like that. And also, you want to make sure, one of the great benefits of having a lawyer review an agreement is to tell you whether or not it's more in your favor or less in your favor. That's one of the main things I can say when it comes from legal advice. Is this in my favor or someone else's favor? If it's in someone else's favor, what are the consequences? And that allows you to establish your risk tolerance. Of course, if you sign a mortgage with the Royal Bank of Canada, I can pretty much guarantee you, from having handled thousands of transactions at this point, every document you sign with the bank is going to be in their favor. I say that all the time. As I mentioned previously, I often have to explain what's called standard charge mortgage terms to clients, which is a little number that gets registered with a mortgage that corresponds to a 30 to 40 page document that lists every last little thing that a bank or credit union or other financial institution can use to foreclose on a property, take it from you, and sell it. Basically, that's what you want to know. What is it that I'm signing? What are the consequences, etc. In terms of title, so I'm going to jump now just a little bit ahead here to 3.6. You just want to make sure, another little thing that lawyers are able to do is making sure that a company is actually registered appropriately in the province of Manitoba. That is actually a requirement to go on title for a property. In Manitoba, you just want to make sure that they are registered here. I've had that come up time and time again. I'm actually originally from Ontario, only lived there till I was 5, but I've had many Ontario clients who are using their Ontario corporations to buy Manitoba properties. I often have to have them registered in Manitoba just to make sure they can proceed. Always a great idea to make sure you know who you're contracting with if they're not an individual who is a resident of Canada. So,
and if I could ask another question at this point while we're on 3.
Absolutely.
So in a lot of instances, when we're doing a joint venture, one of the joint ventures is the person who is qualifying for the mortgage on a property, say, for instance, with a buy and hold property. So the other party that wishes to be registered, say it's my corporation. Well, my corporation hasn't qualified for the mortgage. Can it be registered on title, or will it also have to qualify then with the bank?
It will have to qualify with the bank. So when a lawyer receives mortgage instructions, which is what the bank does, so you apply, you purchase, or I'll start from the beginning, purchase a property, and then you apply, you get your mortgage all set up. They then send legal instructions to a solicitor, myself or anyone else, and they include everything that they want the lawyer to do to comply with their rules to give the funds. So for example, if it comes into the name of 74692 Manitoba Limited, that is the only person that the bank will accept being on the title of the property. Now, if you're doing a joint venture with someone else and you're saying, well, you know, I'm not going to be on title, but I'm helping fund a portion of this, or I'm involved, I'm funding the construction costs, or I'm doing the construction myself, or whatever the level of your involvement is, whether it's 2% or 20% or 85%, whoever is accepted by the bank is who has to be on title alone. You can't add anybody else without violating the bank's terms. There's a lot of things.
So spoiler alert, then that's what the Bear Trust Agreement is that we're going to be talking about later on.
And exactly.
So stay tuned, everybody.
I always tell people, once everything is said and done, you can do whatever it is that you want. I don't give advice on that portion. I just say I can follow what you would wish to do. My highest level of security for anybody is you're either on title or you register something against the property. So that's another portion that we can talk about a little bit later on. So anyways, any other questions on that portion?
Thank you. No, that's everything.
Okay, so moving on then. I would go to the sale of the property section. Everything else tends to be pretty within the same things that I've discussed. You know, get your notice, understand where you are, if you want, throw in a clause for being updated in written form versus verbal form, which is something that I always like. I'm very much so an in writing kind of person, but that just tends to be me. So for sale of the property, there are several things that you can think about when it comes to this. I'm going to section 3.10. After completion of the renovations, 1, 2, 3 shall make best efforts to sell the property, so on and so forth. Now, the word best can mean a great many things to a great many people, but that's one of the reasons why I always suggest getting good legal advice when you move forward on agreements or projects or anything. And maybe I'm just selling the legal profession at this point to people involved in real estate. Of course, I have a very biased view, but one of the things I would say is there can be a massive difference between the word best and the words reasonable. So if you ask earlier, I mentioned that if you say to someone, what is the consequence of what am I doing, what I'm signing? Is it more in favor of me, or is it more in favor of someone else? The word best actually really turns that very, very quickly. So if that word right there said reasonable, that would mean you would list the property to be sold with a competent realtor. If it wasn't selling for the price you wanted, maybe you'd take better photos, hire someone else to make a great video. You might pay $30 to put it at the top of Kijiji or Facebook or whatever your advertising forum may be. If that word said reasonable, that might be where the end of your obligation is. Now, the word best efforts means the top of the top of the top. It means you're phoning every family member you've ever had the phone number to, every friend you've ever had, every lawyer, mortgage broker, realtor, any specialist that you've ever had. You're spending copious amounts of money to advertise the property. All of a sudden, your best effort means your absolute end of the end. I've done every last single thing that I can possibly humanly do on this earth to get this property sold. And that's one of the things that is a bit more in favor of the other party versus another party where reasonable might have been more in favor of the other contracting party. Just a small little thing, but every now and then I like to whip out my legal expertise and say, hey, it comes down to one word differences at certain points. So just a little bit of a caution on that point. I tend to like best efforts because it means you've got someone's butt on the line to be able to do everything that is in their human power to do what it is that you want them to do. So there is that side of things. I would go to, in terms of the next sections, profit or loss, that's very straightforward. I love schedules where we're referencing Schedule A in the second line. That's always great because Schedule A tends to be, in my opinion, the greatest way to catch all of anything that you might have missed in an agreement, or just listing off any terms, even if it's repetitive. Always a good idea. Just numbers, expectations, projections, timelines, things like that are really great to add into there.
Sorry, Brendan. What section is this?
I'm on 3.11.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. And then I was going to jump into further investment, section 3.12. Main reason I was going to do that was because of the story I told earlier, where further investment has been absolutely required on a file that I'm working on, where I'm registering my 4th mortgage on a property. Very luckily, the first lender in that series of events happens to be represented by a lawyer in my office. So very close to the line of meeting different lawyers from different firms, but further investments can very, very typically be required. It's completely not uncommon in my experience to have to require that. But that's what comes into play when you go for your projected budget. You want to be aware of your numbers. You want to be aware of what might be above and beyond required of you, or be happily surprised that your costs are lower than you anticipated. Always a really, really great thing to have, because further investments can be required. I don't know, except for clients that are very experienced investors in real estate, I don't know anybody that hasn't had to put in a little bit more money into a property than they anticipated, myself included. I replaced some carpet in a place recently, and I replaced it with hardwood, and that ended up running me, I think, about 25% above what I thought I was going to be doing, but that's okay. I had anticipated it would be higher. Or even recently, we had our offices renovated. It ran way longer than I thought it would. So that's always good to have, is some flexibility in there. So I'm going to jump to Article 4, Term and Termination, Section 4.1. You basically just want to know how it is that you can exit the agreement, how the other person can exit the agreement. That's typically one of the ones that kind of flies over the head, but you want to make sure that you read that, you're aware of it, you're aware of any consequences of it and stuff like that. Now I'll jump to Article 5, Indemnity, Section 5.1. Indemnity is the weirdest word ever because it basically means I'm going to make sure that you don't get screwed by my actions. I strongly recommend having me review that one with you so you know what you're signing on to. Indemnity is a very, very powerful word. If I indemnify Keith against any costs associated with any future McDonald's purchases, what does that mean? That means that I'm responsible to pay for anything he may order from McDonald's, although he seems very fit and active, a lot more so than myself. So I don't see that being a problem, but just as
That
a crazy
would be
example,
a big problem for you. Says the man with an Egg McMuffin problem.
I have a Big Mac problem, so we're on equal footing. But yeah, indemnity is a really important one. You want to know what you're being sure that you're protected and or liable for. So that is an important one. The next section is Article 6, General, and that is Section 6.1. Nothing hugely controversial to note there. So I will just jump ahead to schedules that are included in Section 6.2. Want to make sure that all of that is taken care of, that you know what's going into the agreement. Next section is Subsequent Agreement, Section 6.3, 6.4. Those are all fairly straightforward if you have any future agreements and so forth. Main one I want to talk about next is Dispute Resolution 6.5. What is noted there is arbitration. I don't think I've ever seen a joint venture agreement that doesn't have an arbitration clause. If you want to know what that basically means, is that you're going to seek out a mutually agreeable arbitrator. There are trained arbitrators that you can pretty much Google or find out through a lawyer or a friend or whoever the case may be. What an arbitrator is, instead of going through a 7-year litigation process in the Court of Queen's Bench of Manitoba, you can appoint someone who is qualified as an arbitrator. There is a designation process to do that. What an arbitrator will do is there'll be an impartial third party that will say, hey, Greg and Jenny, I've looked at everything you've said, kind of like a court, but I'm not a court. I think Greg is right. Here's my reasons why. There you go. Of course, legally speaking, you can dispute that. You can dispute that decision in actual court, but then you knock yourself into a very long court process that I typically don't get involved in, and I'll typically refer to someone else in my office to handle for you. But that is basically what arbitration is. It's appointing a third party that is independent of the two disputing parties, or 3 or 4 or 5 or 50, whatever the case may be.
And just out of curiosity, so what would be the cost for an arbitration on average versus, say, the absolute bare minimum of going to Court of Queen's Bench? So both price and duration.
It's very, very difficult to say. I've heard of a lot of different numbers. What I would say is going to court is kind of like getting a master's degree. Getting an arbitration is getting a certification that takes about a year. And I would equate the two costs very, very similarly, the value of which can be very, very different. You might spend $2,000 to $7,000 on an arbitration if you consult a lawyer to make sure your arguments are sound, so forth and so forth.
Yeah.
And then going to court can be extremely variable. Like right now with COVID and everything, I've heard of cases getting postponed all the way to 2023 that were supposed to have been heard last year. And so even just from the court administrative side of things, if you're not going towards an arbitration, you might be going years and years and years off, and the costs can be very, very high. People have asked me many, many times, hey, you know, I lent some money to a friend. I did have a mortgage registered. I used a lawyer for it. I want to foreclose. I'm the second lender. They got their first mortgage through Standby Credit Union or whatever it is. What do you think the foreclosure cost would be? And I would say, I estimate, since this is going to have to go to the Court of Queen's Bench, I'm going to talk to another lawyer in the office, but you're probably looking at spending 30 to get back 50, and you have a risk of even getting that. So kind of not the best answer, but as
Yeah.
honest as I could get.
No, but that does actually answer the question that Court of Queen's Bench is both very expensive and very much on a longer timeline compared to arbitration.
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons why the system is trying to push arbitration. I've heard a great deal of opinions on either side. I remember in law school, one of my colleagues had said to me, they're just like, "Oh, it's great." People are just like, "Hey, let's forget about actually going to court and just go to kangaroo court that we all agree upon and make up in our own heads and pay a little bit less." But it is what it is. But arbitration is typically one of the clauses that people include because they don't want to have that assumption that everything that's in an agreement is going to be decided by the Court of Queen's Bench, which could take the next 7 years, in which case you might be way down in profits or whatever might have happened with the property.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. My next one is notice. So notice is in section 6.7 of this agreement on the slides there. Now, notice seems like something that really, really, really flies into the radar. I actually think notice is a really important one. I advise that if you're entering an agreement with someone for business purposes, to have a business address listed on this section A or B of 6.7, regardless of which contracting party you are. I really think it is very important that you have either a business address listed, or you can actually, to the shock of many people, if you have a company, you can use your lawyer's office as an address for service. Very small thing, very unlikely that it's ever going to come up, but you don't want to have your personal address listed anywhere when it comes to doing business in real estate or anything else. Having your personal address means you are actually making that property potentially liable for whatever it is that is being agreed upon. So definitely don't want to have the family home listed. It's up to you, but that is my general advisement to all clients, that you either have a business address or you use your law firm's address as your address for service. What is address for service? It's where anything that's related to the agreement will have to be sent to. So for example, you're getting sued, hopefully not in the Court of Queen's Bench, but maybe through arbitration. Either or you want it to be delivered to my law firm if I'm representing you as your corporation's legal counsel on a joint venture agreement, and then anything that is being served will be sent to the lawyer's office, not sent to your personal office. Never mix business and pleasure, they say. That is a very good saying, because you are protecting your personal assets and keeping them separate from any business endeavors that you are going forward with. So that's my little spiel on that one. So the next section I will go to is, I'm just going to go to independent legal advice. Everything else is very quick, so I'll just run through them. Section 6.8, just want to make sure that anything that's in this agreement that doesn't apply with applicable legislation or case law doesn't invalidate the whole agreement. What it does is it just invalidates the unapplicable section. Next section, time of the essence. Everybody's going to get this thing signed as soon as they can, with the appropriate time allotted for some sober thought. Next section, applicable law, 6.1. It's interpreted by the laws of Manitoba. Let's hope that it's not interpreted by the laws of Florida, because I don't know how their system works whatsoever. Next section, inurement. Everything is just going to be continuing binding on anybody that may take over from the party that you're contracting with. So goodness forbid, but you contract with Jenny Smith and she gets hit by a bus tomorrow. Her son takes over. He's a great guy. He's still obligated. Her estate is obligated, meaning everything that she's left behind, property, assets, liabilities, and all of that are still a contracting party to this agreement. So you still have a valid contract with someone. And then the next section that I will touch on in a bit more detail is independent legal advice, section 6.12. This is just about independent legal advice. A lot of people ask me all the time, what the heck is independent legal advice? I have to have it done quite often, particularly I have some great clients who go through Castle Mortgage, for example, or other mortgage centers. Independent legal advice is when you have a situation usually related to a mortgage and or other agreements, such as a joint venture, where the contracting parties, meaning the 2 people or 3 people or 4 people who are agreeing, have a situation where both of them should be advised of their obligations and liabilities. So prime example of when is independent legal advice required. Hey, my mom is going to be co-signing my mortgage with myself and my spouse. We're buying our first home. We don't quite qualify, but the bank will be completely fine if mom signs on. Depending on the situation, you might want to have mom go into another lawyer's office and have them say, hey, you're not being pressured to sign this. This is the consequences of what you're signing. You are equally as liable towards the mortgage payments if your son doesn't pay, if your daughter-in-law doesn't pay, whatever the case may be. Same thing with the joint venture. If one of you came to me and said, hey, I just signed this up with Vern or anybody or whoever it is in TeamMade, I would say, this is the consequences of what you're signing. And do you want to proceed? I'll witness your signature. Here we go. Give you one of my favorite things, which might be a bill. And there you go. You've been given independent legal advice explaining the consequences of what it is that you are signing.
And Brendan, we have a question here from the from the attendees. Kevin asks, when you say you should not have your personal address in a corporate real estate venture, does this also apply to when you purchase any real estate, or is it just for joint ventures and partnership contracts? Should you always use your lawyer's address for every corporate transaction, such as a mortgage, insurance, property management? My answer to that is anything that is you personally, like your personal use. So if you're using if you're buying a home and you go to your lawyer's office and they're like, hey, you're purchasing, I'm going to make up an address. This might be a real address. I hope it's not, but 63 Silver Sage Crescent in Sage Creek. I don't even know if that's in Sage Creek, but I think it might be. Go for it. Use that address as your personal address for service. The land titles office is going to send you some correspondence if someone registers a builder's lien because you've contracted someone to build a wall and you didn't pay them for it, or the bank decides to register something else against your property. Anything that goes against your personal transactions, go for it. Use your own personal address. Anything that you're doing for revenue, for making some profit on, aside from just a personal use, I highly recommend either using a different address for service or just asking a lawyer about it, as the case may be, because it can really greatly depend. If I was purchasing, if my brother for example, couldn't qualify for a mortgage on a house and I was co-signing his mortgage, I would be perfectly fine with having my own personal home listed. If I'm doing a flip with a guy that I'm very confident in, I know that he does great work. I've seen him post great success, but I'm just a little bit unsure. I might use a corporate address for that property. It just depends greatly on the situation, but typically my personal risk tolerance and what I would advise clients on 90% of the time is use the lawyer's office and or corporate address for anything that is not very personally based in terms of the transaction. Great, thank you.
Okay, perfect. I'm not sure how much time we have actually. How are we doing on time, Keith?
Well, I was going to say we're 30 minutes in. We've got time to go through the next couple of agreements. You know, I mean,
Okay,
we're pretty flexible.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, we're right on track.
Okay, perfect. I remember my mother once said she knew when I was born that when I finally learned how to talk that I would never shut up ever again. So I always feel obligated to check.
And yet you're not a litigator.
I get a lot more talking time in real estate because I get 30 minutes with you guys or anyone who's purchasing or selling to go through all the documents. My mom says, you just like your job because you can lock someone in a room for 30 minutes and make them listen to you talk. So
Should have gone to law school.
Okay, so the next one I'm going to go through is the equity share agreement. I'm just going to pull that up here in my notes.
And again, too, yeah, you don't necessarily have to hit on every clause, but just sort of explain in plain language what the highlights are.
Okay, so for this one, I will make this one much more Cole's notes, like the joint venture agreement. The reason why I go into such detail is the joint venture agreement is basically like that is your whole transaction.
That's the bread and butter, the meat and
That's
potato.
the bread and butter. Exactly. Like it's not just the skeleton, it's the skeleton plus quite a bit of the muscles and the internal organs. This is just getting gross, but but that really is what a joint venture is. Like it's outlining your relationship, it's outlining your, path forward, it's outlining what happens if the path forward goes sour, whatever it is. Like joint ventures are very, very much so. I would say they're probably 90% of the things that I get asked on in real estate investing when it comes to working with others versus just doing it alone. So that's kind of why I went into as much detail as I did on the joint venture. But going forward, I'm just going to go to the equity share agreement. This is one where I can just kind of sum it up in the most succinct way. What's everybody's responsibilities if we're doing something together? How close are we going to be? How far away are we going to be? Who's going to be doing what? Who's contributing what? An equity share agreement, and particularly the one that Teammate has made, is very succinct. Again, I always recommend just having it reviewed by a lawyer. It depends on your tolerance and the level of money that you're willing to spend in a transaction. Another thing that I would note about a shared equity agreement is it's actually very similar to a very salient topic, which is the first-time home buyers incentive mortgage, where the government of Canada helps fund your mortgage and they actually register helps fund your down payment, and they actually register a second mortgage on your property. I have a typical one right here. I can share this at some point or add a link, but it's quite thick. But what you're basically doing is you are proceeding in a transaction, sharing in the equity. Equity was touched on earlier in the presentation as to what that means, but you're basically sharing that with someone for a benefit. It's up to you what level of benefit you want to allow that person. Very many times I've been asked, what do you think about this program that the government offers? And I say, depends on what your tolerance is for sharing in your equity. And that goes to the same degree with the equity share agreement. I'm not sure if there's any questions on that, but I'm open to them.
I don't believe there are. No one's typed anything in yet from the chat. And I was going to say, I myself don't have any on this one.
Sounds good. I guess we can move to the next.
I'm sure there will be questions here. The Bear Trustee Agreement.
Okay, so the first thing that I can say about the Bear Trust Agreement is this is one that seems shorter, less consequential, but this is the one that I actually really recommend spending. I have no idea what anybody else charges, but just to review a Bear Trust Agreement, sign it off with the client, I typically charge $250 plus taxes. I think that comes out to $280. This is one where I highly, highly, highly recommend that you seek legal counsel. Joint venture actually is more consequential, but the Bear Trust is one that you can get infinitely more wrong typically. Bear Trust Agreement, you are taking title to a property to someone else's benefit. Now, that might sound very easy, very straightforward. A Bear Trust Agreement can go very wrong, very fast, very quickly, very easily. I've been asked, as I mentioned, on many occasions to review agreements for clients. And on many occasions, I've been reviewing an agreement that I did 2 years ago. And someone took my precedent and ran with it. The most recent Bear Trust Agreement I reviewed was a Bear Trust Agreement that I did for a very close friend's mother who has an autistic son who can't manage his assets that he was left from his grandparents. And so the Bear Trust Agreement was actually for her to look after her autistic son's assets while he was incapacitated. That might seem very, 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 very different than saying, hey, I don't want to be listed on title because it will impact my assets and liability assessment with a bank or credit union or other financial institution. And I am doing a business move with a great, great partner. And we're going to be renovating and selling a property afterwards. We're going to spend 50 grand. We're going to make 100 grand. Can be very, very different. So that's basically what it is. Really, to me, when it comes down to with the Bear Trust Agreement, what are you holding? Who are you holding it for? What's the purpose? what's the wording, making sure that it's very applicable to what it is that you're doing. Not sure if there's any questions on that, but
I was going to say, I do
open
have a question here just in terms of, so I know that one of the reasons that it comes up a lot in real estate investing is that from a lending standpoint, the banks and credit unions are very much not in favor of lending to corporations or any entities for that matter that are not a person. They like to lend to people who have T4 income, who have a good job, a regular job, a salaried job. And so we as real estate investors at a certain point when we've bought a couple of properties, we're kind of getting cut off, and then we have to turn to joint venturers, thus the first part. And we're now looking for our joint venture partners to be the ones to qualify for the mortgage. And again, by that point, we're also looking to use things like corporations to enjoy perhaps better tax advantages than having simply all the taxes accrue in your personal name. So the execution that I see happening in real estate is that we're using our joint venture partner to qualify for the mortgage personally. And then with that joint venture partner, we have our joint venture agreement. And then perhaps we may also set up a corporation and use the corporation as the term, the beneficiary.
Yeah.
Now I know you can't give tax advice and that kind of stuff, but is that sort of like the proper usage of the Bear Trust Agreement?
It absolutely is. I did one of these last week. So, by the way, teammate, thank you very much for referring so many clients to me, but it's great for me to be able to give back and present a bit and share some of that experience that I get from referrals. But yeah, I did one very recently, and that was the exact situation. It was a client who, he had the money, he's willing to invest, single gentleman, worked for Manitoba Hydro, so we all know that means big bucks apparently. But he had all this money, but he already was into, I think, about 5 or 6 projects. So the credit union was just like, you know what, no, we're not backing you on anymore. Like, you may have a high net worth, you may have been great to us, and you know, the banks are just willing to look at anything. Hey, you have an unpaid parking ticket, see ya, we're not qualifying you for financing, so much less someone that has 5 or 6 large liabilities despite a good income, despite good net worth and all of that. So they wanted to continue on in their projects. They had a great partner who was very experienced with construction. The person actually had just finished constructing a home that I had actually represented them on. They had purchased an older property in Charleswood, renovated it, pretty much made it a new home. Very luckily, they lived there, so they were tax exempt from having to remit GST, so their profits were a little higher, but call me for further details on that. But they were very experienced, and they were able to qualify because they had only really done 2 projects. Client was very confident in their abilities, but they wanted something to say that, you know, I'm funding this, I'm spending $240,000, I think it was somewhere in that range, but I want to know that you're holding this for me, you're going to renovate it, you're going to consult me, you're going to put in the adequate clauses in the joint venture as well as in the Bear Trust. That's why those two go so very, very hand in hand, because the joint venture can, as I mentioned, outline how you're proceeding together. Bear Trust can outline that portion that says, hey, but you know, I'm the one that's funding this thing here. Let's keep it in my favor. I personally really like having things registered. I love caveats. That's one of my favorite words. I give a lot of caveats in real life or in this moment. Like I said, I'm giving legal information, not legal advice. Call me for legal advice. I'll send you a bill happily. But in terms of caveats, you can register a Bear Trust agreement against a title. That's one of the things that's the most valuable about it, is that it gives you a right to exercise your rights to make sure that you get paid, that you have ownership, that you are represented, that you are protected. So that is kind of my answer to that. Hopefully that wasn't too all over the place.
No, and just to expand on what you mentioned there. So a Bear Trust can be registered then at land titles, registered as a caveat on title. So if we go back to that previous question that I asked about having 2 parties on title, and then the bank would insist on both of them qualifying for the mortgage, this then is how we would secure the interest of the person that is not on title, or the entity, corporation that is not on title, is by doing this bare trust and then filing it as a caveat on title.
That's exactly correct, Keith. I'd put it this way. One day, and I do plan to have kids. I don't have any kids at this moment, but I anticipate hopefully having the pleasure of having a daughter or son. For example, if I decide to give my future daughter a start for her first home, a bit iffy on her partner, I might say, hey guys, can you sign an agreement with me that just notes that I'm giving you your sapling money, your seeding money, whatever the case may be. I have the right to use an agreement like that and register it against the title to secure my interests. Same thing with a bare trust agreement. You have an interest in the property. Anything that outlines and demonstrates that you have a right to an interest in a property is registrable. Can't guarantee that it's going to work every time. Can't guarantee what land titles will say. But as of this very moment, if you consult me with a bare trust agreement, I'll make sure that it's one that can be registered against title.
Sorry, and in that example, that was to protect the gift that you're giving to your daughter and her spouse should they split up.
Exactly. And same thing with the bare trust. If you're funding something, you have by law an insurable interest in the property and a right to have a charge against the title. But it does avail you from having to qualify for the mortgage and be on title and sign off on everything. But yeah.
Well, thank you. That's very, very useful information for me anyway. My gears are turning in my head.
I mean, and you know what, on the flip side of things too, I would say as a lawyer, and I can be very pessimistic at times, you sign an agreement and you hope that it's valid, whether it's something that you've reviewed with a lawyer, whether it's something that you have not reviewed with a lawyer. An agreement's an agreement, and you do have to argue it out at the end of the day at court. You can write a prenuptial agreement with someone on a napkin. You can write a prenuptial agreement with someone at the highest paid family law office in the province, and there is someone that can contest it and can say, I disagree with this, and then you're opened up to all kinds of legal challenges. So there is that element. If the government has as many high-billed lawyers as they do on contract or at the Department of Justice, nothing would ever get challenged in the courts. Of course, we know every other day on the news, there is a note that something's being challenged in our Supreme Court. So that's my only caveat, one of my favorite words to that.
Yes. And then if I could just ask you to speak to clause 2.0, power of attorney.
That is a great one.
And I mention this because in a particular situation where right now, one of my joint venture partners is qualified for the mortgage on a property, and then we will have the bare trust agreement. Now, since I am not going to be on title for the property, of course, but I still need to be able to execute things with the bank, right? I need to be able to actually do banking for the property. Since my partner is not in this province, I need to have power of attorney. I noticed that this seems to be built into the bare trust agreement.
So whether or not the bank is going to accept that clause is something that is completely out of my hands. Banks, credit unions, definitely not other financial institutions. I think Keith and I were actually on the phone earlier today and we were talking about other financial institutions and their requirements. What do I mean by other financial institutions? I mean monoline lenders. Oh, great, Brendan. You just made that so much more clear. What is that word? Lenders that aren't federally regulated, that aren't provincially regulated, that are just generally in the scope of mortgage lending. So this would be companies like Home Trust, Manulife, First National Financial, Merrick's Financial, all of those other companies. They are in the business of lending for mortgages. They are not banks. They are not credit unions. They are regulated very differently. They would 100% not accept that clause. A bank and or credit union, they might, depending on who it is you're dealing with, depending on if they give whatever lawyers on call for them, whether it's internal one at the bank or credit union or an outside lawyer like myself or someone at my office or another lawyer. But typically speaking, when you see the words power of attorney, That is a very separate document. Now, many agreements I've taken a look at have a power of attorney clause. This can be viewed by the bank or credit union as what my understanding is, and my partner or significant other, whatever you want to call her, Lindsay, has noted, you know, it depends very greatly on what whoever you are meeting with has an interpretation of. So there are proxies. For example, when you make a will, if you make a will with a lawyer and you pass away, you can be pretty sure that that thing is going to be correct if the lawyer knows what they're doing. If you write a will on a napkin just before you die, and I did this the first time I ever tried Red Bull because I had 3 of them and my heart rate accelerated to such an extent that at the age of 16 years old, I wrote on a napkin, I leave my estates, I leave my money and assets to my mother because my heart was going so fast, I thought I was going to go. So I wrote that on a literal napkin. Which one's going to be more valid? It depends. Someone might be like, oh, hey, this person said this is what they want to do. This is their proxy, or who gets whatever it is. Let's go with that. But in terms of more strict requirements, an actual specific power of attorney might be required, which is something that you might want to have done in a lawyer's office. Typically, I find those cost between $175 and $225. And specific power of attorney, what do I mean by that? It means it's specific to the transaction. So for example, Keith, if you wanted to be appointed power of attorney on behalf of the partner, you could have one of those done. It would be specified that it was only for that one specific property, not generally speaking, because hopefully, unfortunately, that person might not want you to be able to sign every last little thing on their behalf. But
Right.
that is what I think of the power of attorney clause. It is one that if I was sitting at a bank and saying, hey, this person's doing business, they've had 2 other transactions with us, my risk tolerance as financial advisor, branch manager, says they appointed him to be able to sign these mortgage documents, go for it. Because appointing someone to sign on behalf of a corporation or in a commercial transaction can be anything. I don't really think that Elon Musk goes to his lawyer's office and appoints a power of attorney every single time he wants someone to be able to sign on behalf of Tesla or SpaceX or whatever it is. But that being said, I'm sure he has an agreement that's probably 3, 4, 5, 600 pages long that finds a way to make that effective.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hopefully that made some sense.
It made sense to me.
There we go.
And I should ask at this point too, if anyone in attendance has any questions, just throw them in the chat because I'm monitoring it.
Perfect.
So I guess that is the end of the Bear Trust Agreement. So now we are on to the letter of intent.
Letter of intent. This is the one that I can leave probably as the most brief in this whole presentation. What are you offering someone? Letter of intent can kind of be very similar to an offer to purchase in my experience. What are you offering? Let's hope someone accepts it. But this is also one of the ones that I would suggest definitely getting legal counsel for, because if you're moving into the area where you are offering something, where you're putting up money, where you're saying, this is what I am able to do, please accept. I think it's a decent chance that you might want to have someone tell you what the consequences of saying all of that is.
Now, I do have a question here with regards, maybe not to this specific letter of intent, but another form of letter of intent. Is we were talking earlier about joint ventures, and oftentimes people don't just immediately sit down and sign a joint venture agreement. They first start talking about real estate. We often coach our students to talk about real estate to their friends and family and to find joint venture partners. And somebody will invariably come back and say, I had someone, one of my friends, one of my relatives, they were all hot and bothered. They were excited about doing real estate. I got this great property. I got it under contract. I went to go do it. And my joint venture partner got cold feet. Like when the time came to actually cut the check, they backed out on me. And we talk about a letter of intent here at TeamMade, also using a letter of intent with regards to partners, where even though it's not, I guess maybe a different letter of intent that's not legally binding, but it's emotionally binding. When somebody actually sits down and puts ink to paper, they're emotionally committing to working with our student to proceed on purchasing real estate.
Yeah, I think that's entirely correct. The only thing I would make sure, and I really like some of the non-binding terminology that's used in the one that TeamAid provides. There's a couple things I might add in there if I was asked about it, but I would equivocate it to this. If I borrow $5 from Keith, I'm very liable to. I forget my wallet on many times, switching suit pants and whatever else, particularly with COVID, because I've been switching quite a bit between business casual and business, jeans and a blazer and a shirt or whatever, and jeans or whatever the case may be. But if I borrow $5 from you, you're going to be like, sure, I can only assume. We've gone to lunch before, we're friends, whatever it is. If you want me to absolutely be sure to pay that back to you, you might want to put it in writing.
There you go.
If you
there's 5.
There we go. But that is one thing that the letter of intent does, is it is a letter of intent. So if you actually just break that down, I'm not trying to get too philosophical. I am a lawyer. I should be a bit more cold cut. But it says, this is what I'm intending to do in writing. This is how I want to proceed. I'm putting it down on paper. What do you think? And that really is the biggest value I can say from letters of intent. I don't do a ton of corporate commercial work anymore. I usually refer that to a couple lawyers in my office. So if you're buying a chicken chef or whatever it is, I've done Boston Pizza purchases before, but it makes it very clear that you are serious. And I would equate a letter of intent to a small deposit. So you're purchasing a real estate property, you might put down $5,000 to show you're serious. If you want to show that you're not that serious, you might put down $50. If you want to show that you're kind of serious, you might put down 500 or 2,000 or 1,000. But a letter of intent says, hey, I've signed off on this. This is my proposal. I have a chance to get out of it based on X, Y, and Z clause, but this is really what I'm proposing. This is my framework. Let's move forward on it.
Yeah, you're laying it out. You're committing to it, even if it's not binding. It's like you're expressing a commitment.
And I'd say this, for example, Keith, Vern, Nelson, anybody on the call who's a coach, if I phoned you and I said, hey, I'm purchasing an apartment block, 16 units, would you be game? You'd be like, yeah, maybe, just send me some of the terms. If I sent you an email saying, hey, it's Brendan, I'm purchasing a 24-unit apartment block. I'm going to purchase it for this price. I'm thinking of having this amount financed. I'm thinking of having this amount funded by a foreign investor friend of mine. This is the amount that my cousin Mitch is going to fund. This is how much revenue we can get per unit. This is how much we can get from if we decide to convert it to a condo building, so forth, so forth, so forth, in writing, something that you can actually physically reach out and touch and sign off on.
Sounds good.
There we go.
And I guess finally, our last contract that we're going to go through is the promissory note.
Promissory note. This is an interesting one that I've seen on the rise, in particular from credit unions who are funding, as we've discussed, corporate clients before. There's a lot of banks, credit unions who don't want to fund mortgages, financing to people who are not actually people, who are corporations. So you've just started a numbered company in Manitoba. Hopefully you've seen me, and I can have our really great corporate paralegal at our office, Shannon, incorporate you. But whatever the case may be, you have a new corporation, you're hoping on purchasing a property with someone, using that corporation to protect yourself from liability or whatever the case may be. The bank and or credit union, or if you are the lender, maybe you're funding something, maybe you're lending someone an amount of money that you're comfortable with not registering something on a title, meaning registering something against a property that will secure your interest in the way that you will have to be very likely paid out to have that property transferred to someone else, meaning if it's sold, they'll have to make sure that you're off title. Promissory notes basically give you that right, same way that I mentioned previously with the Bear Trust Agreement, gives you a right to register a charge against title. Now, I've noticed,
meaning a caveat.
meaning a caveat, that's exactly correct. Promissory notes have been on the rise with credit unions. I'm not exactly sure why, but if I was to hazard a guess based on legal experience, I would say that it is because they want to have something that gives them the right to register against other properties that you or your corporation hold, which a promissory note, depending on the way that it's worded, typically do that job. So, for example, let's go with, I'm just going to use Keith. I'm sorry, I keep picking on you because you're
No
on my
problem.
screen. But say Keith personally owns a property in Royalwood, let's say, and then Keith also has this corporation which is buying a property in Bridgewater that he's planning on renovating and turning over and selling. Can't imagine there's any good properties to do that with in Bridgewater, given how new it is, but just going with the hypothetical here. But say that is the case, he purchases it with his corporation. Sorry, I think I just cut out there. There we go. So say he purchases it with his corporation, gets approved by a credit union. They may want him to sign a promissory note. So what he is doing is he typically is, this is what I've seen from credit unions and banks that lend to corporate clients, or people who, you know, might not otherwise qualify with one of the major banks or whatever it is. This is what I also say. If the bank wants you to sign it, you can have me read it to you and explain it to you 500 times over. If you want the money, sign the piece of paper and we'll move forward. But since I'm in explaining mode today, we'll go with that. But they want you to promise to pay. That's what a promissory note is. You promise to pay. Now, most times they want you to sign it personally, even if you are getting this property with a corporation or funding it through a corporation, whatever it is. They don't want Keith's numbered corporation or named corporation. They want Keith to say, I, Keith, promise to pay this. And what that does typically is give them the right to register a caveat or other charge against any property that Keith may own, meaning that they also might have the right to register against properties that Keith owns, the company that owns that property. So that's basically what a promissory note does, is it gives you typically the right to exercise that promise against whoever it is that is signing.
Okay, and can I just seek confirmation? Now, is it true that a promissory note along with student loans are two of the only things that survive a personal bankruptcy?
I would have to double check that answer to make sure that I'm correct in advising on that, actually.
Okay. Wow, I stumped Brendan for.
Oh, there we go.
No, I thought that was one of the reasons why they were actually rather valuable, in that someone says, well, this is just a piece of paper. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's a piece of paper, but it survives a bankruptcy. And like, now again, correct me if I'm wrong, a bankruptcy can even remove you from tax liability, can it not?
That is correct, to my knowledge, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, I was gonna say, we'll get back to you on that one.
We'll get back to you on that one. Part of the reason as well is like a lot of the laws have changed very, very recently on debt repayment and foreclosure. Like, for example, in 2019, one of the worst fears of lenders around the country was confirmed in a Ontario Superior Court, meaning that it wasn't the Supreme Court, it wasn't the Court of Appeals in Ontario. I'll have to double check my case law on this, but it was one of the things that banks really want to make sure is that you're up to date with your property taxes and water account payments. One of the reasons why banks and lawyers are very, very particular about that is property taxes have been theorized to be able to supersede, meaning that they come before the payment of a mortgage should you go into foreclosure, meaning, hey, I haven't been paying my mortgage for the last 5 years. The bank says, hey, I'm getting involved here. But then the city of Winnipeg says, no, wait, I'm owed $10,000 here in property taxes. I get paid first if we sell this thing. Or City of Winnipeg says, hey, no, wait, they have a huge water account. We're going to add that to the property taxes, and then we're going to make sure we get paid for the excess water account and the property taxes. Hydro doesn't have the ability to do that because it follows you personally, but property taxes, water accounts follow the specific civic address of the property. So they come first, and that was confirmed very recently. So definitely something that I have to confirm before I can answer on that.
Well, thank you very much, Brendan. We really appreciate it. Seeing as you brought up water bills, I'm going to open a real quick can of worms here. Would you like to do a challenge for us as the real estate investing community? Because I know a number of us have had issues where our tenants have run up very large water bills. And even though the water bill is in the tenant's name, the tenant then ditches, and in a blood from a stone scenario, we can't get the money out of the tenant. And instead of going after the person who used the water, who had it legally in their name in a contract, the water department, because they're a quasi-government institution, chooses to throw it back on our property taxes and extract it from someplace they know they can get blood. I don't really think that's, well, it's certainly not fair, even though it may be legal. And I think it's open to a legal challenge if a certain dapper young lawyer there would take up the cause and maybe do some sort of challenge for us as investors.
That is very funny because I just had a client phone me, and they were stuck with a staggering sum of $32.60. But thank goodness it was that low. They wanted to know if they could make a title insurance claim. So I gave them the link to check in with title insurance to see if that was applicable. I don't think I'm going to challenge that anytime soon, as much as I'm not going to challenge the very large income tax bracket that I think a lot of people end up in once they do well for themselves. But if anybody on this call wants to run for mayor, I'd be very happy to speak with you on my opinions on the matter.
Yeah, I do know that there was also talk as well. One of the city councilors was at least talking about, from a fairness standpoint, letting people know about what their water charges were to get it to go to a monthly charge. And I think we as investors would very much like that, because obviously even something as simple as a toilet that's running that the tenants don't happen to notice or mention, you know, if we could cut it off when it's a couple of $100 in excess water charges, whereas let it run for 3 months and now it becomes like a couple of thousand, it would be very beneficial.
100%. And I think that's very true. Like, as a landlord, you have all of these obligations towards your tenant that you have to put up with this, you have to give this notice. The laws are, in my opinion, personal opinion, very biased towards tenants, and, understandably so to some degree. I get it. But in terms of that, I think that is very wise. Like, there is a reason why, and I'm sure maybe this is too highbrow for newcomers to real estate investment. I'm sure it's not too highbrow to veterans of the business or people who are mid-experience or whatever it is. But there is a reason why sometimes the bank, credit union, financial institution wants to collect your property taxes for you. A lot of clients are like, you know what, I didn't actually get that. Why is the bank doing it? I mean, I'm happy because all I have to do is bring you a void check and you just sign off on a form for me, and I don't even have to think about it. The lender just takes care of it in our mortgage payment. It's one payment on our account. But one of the reasons why exactly is because the municipalities have a legal right to register against your property and be ahead of your mortgage lender in terms of repayment of any loans. So that is one of the reasons
covering
why
their own interest.
And I can't
I'll use
imagine
the polite way of saying
anyone's
covering their own interest.
Covering their own interests. Exactly. I might use the word ASS, but I'm not going to. But yeah, typically that's one of the reasons why. And I don't imagine that any municipality across the country is going to change that requirement. I wouldn't if I was mayor, and very biased for the city's favor. But as a lawyer, I am biased for my clients. So I view that as that is actually unfair. This is one of the reasons why anyone who purchases revenue property with me, there's two things that I highly recommend to them. Number one, I recommend a certain title insurance company that has unlimited coverage in certain areas. I won't get into that today. That might be a great topic for another presentation. And then number two, I almost always insist on monthly property taxes, so you can at least have a couple months notice, hopefully, of where things are at.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so very much, Brendan. I know we may have gone a hair longer than we do many months, but there was so much again, meat and potatoes in this. This is like really getting into a serious topic. And I'll put your contact information up there again on the screen. So
Thanks so much.
if folks have questions, please reach out. Brendan is, of course, one of the funnier lawyers out there as well, in terms of just having a great sense of humor about all of this stuff. And I know he's great to work with and have lunch with. So thank you very kindly, Brendan. And
Thanks
we'll
so much
turn
for
it
having
back
me.
over to our MC there, Mr. Vern.
Well, thank you very much, Brendan. It's always nice to listen to your chats, and you tell your mom we love being locked in a room with you. Anyways, let's move on. We're going to talk a little bit about winners and losers, and why do some people win and some people lose? What makes a winner? Keith was talking about that earlier. What I like to look for in my new students is I look for someone who likes to hustle, someone that has a commitment to a level of success, and they want to elevate their financial destiny. This is what we look for. And they consistently take action over and over and over, and they get the education so they can make informed decisions on everything. And what we're going to talk to you about on our next slide here is how you can make an informed decision with regards to Team-Made Real Estate Academy and what it can do for you, with you. We are a national firm here in Canada, right across Canada. We opened in Alberta just recently, this past few months. And we opened in United States about 18 months ago. So we are an international learning academy. We have temporary courses that you can take, online courses, 1-year courses. We have academy memberships that run for a lifetime. You become a member with us with a one-time fee. It covers you for a lifetime. And Keith Gordon just made a nice little note there. Yes, Keith Gordon and myself are international real estate investors, Canada and United States as well. We work both sides of the border, as does Valen Vergara, the owner of Team-Made Academy. Okay, next one. Okay. There we go. What would someone learn with us? Basically, we're going to show you how to find a deal, even in hot markets. We have strategies that can show you how to find deals, even when there's single family houses out there getting 23 to 27 offers in one day. Members of our team bought $1 million below asking price. Below asking. And we share those strategies with you. We show you how to find the money for your deals, how to negotiate the price. We'll go in and out of the house with you and negotiate with the seller. We teach you how to write the offer right from start to finish, how to get the money in place so you can fund the deal, how to manage your rental. We'll work with you right through your due diligence and teach you how to manage it. How to manage the business of being a landlord, how to sell it, how to refinance it, and how to do a joint venture like we just covered. How to open an operating company, a holding company, all these different terminologies. We'll introduce you to the right people that can help you do that. Brendan Mahatu is a tremendous asset to our academy. He's our legal sponsor and available and very generous with his advices and opinions. I love it when he opines for us. How to minimize taxes. We introduce you to tax professionals that will help you to minimize taxes and make sure that you file for all of your tax reductions, expenses. How to maximize leverage. This is huge. How to maximize your leverage, not only for your cash, but for your time. That's what we're showing you. And we will help you to get to the point where you change your financial destiny and now you're looking at retiring from your job. This is what we do. Okay. Does it cost money? Yes. Education does cost some money. But there is nobody, and as vice president of Team-Made Real Estate Academy, I am telling you, there is no one in North America that can teach you this for what we teach it here in Manitoba. Nobody. Will you have to do some work? Yes, you'll have to do a little bit of work. We'll get you out of your comfort zone, okay? We'll take you right out of Netflix and take you into real estate flips. That's what we'll do. Will you get your first deal done? You betcha. We guarantee your first deal done when you join us, okay? What we're looking for is people that can put aside an hour a day. That's 7 hours a week or an extra day a week, 4 days in a month, or 52 extra days in a year. And you look at one property a week, make one offer a month, and do one deal this year. Just one. That's all. Get you started. And right now, I'm going to introduce Nelson Camp. Pardon me, no, this one is Gordon, Keith Gordon. Okay, Keith, you talk about your success here with Ting and Nilo.
Yes, thanks, Vern. This is Ting and Nilo Malari, and they just this past a week ago picked up their first real estate investment property, a rental property. It's a duplex, and despite being in a hot market, we were able to get it for under the assessed value. And I got a short video with them.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Coach Keith Gordon here with Team-Made Real Estate and students Ting and Nilo Malari. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
We are here at their latest, their first acquisition. Here it's Garfield in the West End. It's a lovely duplex. And what else can I tell you about it? Bought despite the current market conditions, despite the bidding wars, despite having 9 other offers, we got it still for $20,000 under assessed value. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's a great property, very good bones, well cared for, single owner. And yeah, we're very happy to get started on that coming up.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about it.
So and you guys have been with Team-Made for a couple of months now, half a year, something like that. Half a year. And we've only been looking for properties for what, a couple of weeks?
Couple of weeks.
I was gonna, but the 3 of us have only been looking for
Yes.
properties for
Yes.
a couple of weeks, and we actually were able to track down a good deal and get it, which is even better.
Yeah.
So tracking down a good deal is one thing, actually acquiring it is another thing. And we're happy to get this place. It won't be very long before we get it turned over. The electricians are going to take out the knob and tube, which is the big one, and then there won't be very much to do to get it ready to go to rent. And it's a very nice neighborhood. As you can see down the street here, we got an infill right next door there. As I pivot, so that's a brand new house next door, and then we have another duplex that's sold, and there's kids' toys and all that. Ours?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a double lot.
hey, even better, right? So, yeah. So anyway, so that's it. We just wanted to say hello.
Oh, thank you, Keith. Okay, our next one up, more success stories from our students. Got a little video here with Winnie Doan coming up. And this is actually her second property with us. She joined us last fall, October, in her first 2 weeks, got her first property, Portland. This property here is on Chestnut. and this is her first duplex. She's very excited. Let's have a listen to her.
Good evening or afternoon. I'm here today with Winnie Doan. And Winnie, you've been with, my name is Vern Bird, as most of you know. Okay. And Winnie, you joined Teammate Real Estate Academy when?
Last October.
October.
Yep.
Okay. And in the first month, we got you your first rental property, right?
Yep, in the first 2 weeks.
2 weeks. And that one's already
Rented out.
stabilized,
Yep.
and in good working order, everything.
good
So
until
now, that was way back in October. Now it's April 1st. This is your possession of your second property with us.
My
And-
first duplex.
Your first duplex, okay. And this one, they were asking what, $349?
It was asked, originally they listed at $379.9,
And
and
you
they
got it-
lower.
you-
I got it at $340.
$340.
Yeah, in a crazy market.
Below market.
Below market price.
Yeah, below asking price in a very, very hot
Hot
market,
market.
right? And that's what we helped you with, right? Are you happy with the coaching you're getting from the Bird 2-for-1 coach mentor team at Teammate Real Estate
Yeah,
Academy?
I am so happy with
Oh,
all
are
the
you?
coaching.
Yeah. Tell us more about that.
So I came from a different countries, so the way we build houses, everything is totally different. We don't have basement, we don't have the structure that you have to check at every houses,
Yeah.
and we don't have different kind of weather like here in Canada. So everything about real estate in Canada for me is zero. I had to learn from scratch, and Vern and Visual and everyone in the team
Yeah.
were able to give me all the help that I was looking for.
Nice.
And every time when I have any question, I just text to the group, and someone will, maybe not a coach, another team member will help me
Oh, nice.
and
Yeah.
to find a
Yeah,
solution.
yeah. And you like what we're doing with the Tuesday coaches panel and the Saturdays
Yeah,
training?
it's very helpful.
Yeah, and you can drop in when you want or
Yes.
get recorded. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
Winnie,
Vern.
and all the best to you.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you. Okay.
Well, thank you for that, Keith. I always get a kick out of listening to her talking about how she's enjoying what's happening with her and change in her life. Our next one up here, this is Anita and Alex Prudnikow. Interesting story. They had a different coach when I met them, but the coach just wasn't producing, wasn't giving them what they needed. And so they hired me as a coach and for some field training. And let's have a listen to this is actually their second duplex
Good day.
with our coach.
This
There
is
you go.
Vern Bird again, Bird 2-for-1 coach mentor team at teammaterealestate.com and Teammate Real Estate Academy. I'm here today with Ryan Siemens. And Ryan, this is your first purchase with us?
That's right.
Are you happy with the coaching and mentoring you're getting?
Absolutely.
Oh, really? Okay, good. And you bought this off market?
I bought this off market off of a Facebook post.
A Facebook post.
That's right.
And you got it below asking price.
Yeah, I was able to get it for $10,000 below asking
Below
price.
asking. In the hottest market we've been in my lifetime.
That's true.
In my entire lifetime, I kid you not. Okay? Single family homes, that day you bought this, one single family home, 27 offers, all over asking price.
Oh, wow.
Another one, 23 offers on a single family home, all over asking price.
That's
and
amazing.
you bought this for under asking, off market.
And the ask price was even lower than I would have expected for a triplex.
Yeah. And now you're renovating, upgrading.
That's right. Renovating the basement.
Yeah.
This top floor unit is absolutely gorgeous. The main floor
ready to
unit
rent.
still needs some work, but we are increasing the rent, we are renovating the basement, and we are going to improve the layout, and it's going to be amazing.
Oh, super. And the value of it has gone up.
The value of this property will probably have gone up almost $100,000 from what I bought it. And that's only with about $15,000 worth of actual renovation
Nice.
work.
Some redesigning.
Yeah,
and stuff.
redesigning, some
Repositioning.
repainting,
Yeah.
flooring,
Super.
plumbing work, but only about $15,000. That's it.
That's what you call a home run.
Absolutely.
Okay? And you'll refinance it and probably carry it with none of your own money.
We'll be
Very
doing
short
that
order.
Burr, exactly,
Oh, yeah.
Burr strategy all
Burr
the way.
strategy. Good, good, good. You're happy.
Absolutely.
Oh, great, great. Any final words to say?
I would just say, you know what, if you are looking to get into real estate, get into real estate, and the Teammate Real Estate Group is very, very amazing at teaching you. Join in the courses, join into the free webinars and the free Zoom meetings. Join in because you will learn a lot.
You like those meetings every Tuesday night, 8 p.m.?
Absolutely. Every Saturday morning too.
10:30.
Absolutely. I try to make as many of them as I can.
And you do. We love it when you come. Thank you. Thank you.
You bet.
Well, thank you very much there, Keith. And I do apologize to everyone. I thought it was a slide coming up for my other proteges, but that's fine. I do apologize. This is our next success story. And Nelson, if you're available, would you like to introduce your student success here, please?
You bet. So thanks, Vern. Thanks, Keith. And big thank you to Brendan tonight for everything that he shared. You know what? Legal advice is so important. It's one of those things, it's kind of like insurance. Nobody really cares about it until it becomes important, but my goodness, is it important when the time comes. So there was a ton of value out of there. I hope you guys really spent some time listening. And if you are looking for someone to join your power team, Brendan would be a great asset to help you. So we're very fortunate to have him as our legal sponsor for Teammate Real Estate. You know, I know that the meeting's been going on tonight for a while, but we love to highlight student success. We've heard some great examples of student success already that Keith has shared and Vern. These fine young people here are getting into real estate far younger than I was when I got in. And it just makes me so happy to see the success they're having. Jared and Amanda are on the left there together with their daughter, and on the right, Scott. The funny part is I was actually a drama teacher and a French teacher to Amanda and Scott about 25 years ago. And it's funny how life, or maybe 20 years ago, life kind of brings us back in a full circle. We reconnect with people at a different season in life. And we ran into each other. They're getting into real estate. They're doing some great stuff. So they're in front of a property there that they bought for $85,000 actually. So they bought that one for $85,000. They're going to be refinancing it at $160,000, and they're only needing to put in about $15,000 of work. So this one, they are going to be using the Burr strategy. They're going to be pulling out all of their money and probably also get pretty close to a $15,000, maybe $15,000 payout on the deal. So really excited for them with this deal. They have quite a few doors now put together. They have over $2,500 of income coming in passively a month, and they're building up the lifestyle that they want through that passive horizontal income, right? They're not looking at a job and wanting a raise and wanting a raise and wanting a raise with one stream of income. They're diversifying in many assets that are consistently going to be producing year in and year out. And what's most important here in that picture, and what I really find awesome, is that, you know, they've got their daughter there who's on site learning. And that's what intergenerational wealth is about transferring that to your kids and to the next generation, and building something that isn't just for you, they're building it for their children, which I think is something just amazing. So super proud of them.
Well, thank you very much, Nelson. Would you like to carry right on and introduce the Investor of the Month, please?
Sure. This month, we have the Investor of the Month. It's Jenny and Ryan Roper, and they got a little baby there. It was just over, I think about a week and a half, 2 weeks, who came on site with us with the new home they bought. This is a great one. You know, scope of work, they actually haven't even taken possession yet. Possession is going to be happening in a few days. Super excited about this one. They got a great deal on it as well. Purchased at $160,000. They're going to be renovating it for $25,000. So that brings them up to about $185,000. Closing costs and such, let's say they're in for $200,000. ARV is going to be $250,000. So once again, they're going to be able to pull out all of their money on this Burr project. Guys, this is a zero down deal once again. This is in addition to all the other assets they've grown. They did 2 deals month apart. They're now getting over $500 a door for their entire portfolio, 5 doors that they've got bringing in. So, you know, really proud of them. If you can command a $500 per door after all your vacancy, management, maintenance expenses, and your burring deals, You've really mastered a lot of the techniques that we like to teach in real estate, from forced appreciation to natural appreciation, doing the refinance and leveraging. They're just brilliant, so coachable, eager to succeed. And once again, that's their third child. They have 3 of them. They're building something for the next generation, something to pass on, and just pass the torch to the kids as they move on. So really proud of the action that they've been taking. Great job, Jenny and Ryan. So proud of you. And you know what? I don't think they're stopping. This year alone, they said they want to buy 5 properties, and that's what happens. We help you get your first deal done. That's what we promised, but nobody stops and says, that was great. I really enjoyed that one deal. I'm done. It still hasn't happened yet. I don't expect anybody to make that kind of claim, because once you get one, you realize that this is a reproducible success, right? And you know, in a job, you get a certain amount of money, and that's kind of it. You trade your 2,000, 2,500 hours a year for your income. In real estate, you can just keep going. And someone might say, well, that's kind of greedy. What about when you have enough? Well, when you have enough, buy another one, and then that's your charitable donation property. Anything you make off that one, give away. There'll always be other needs in life. So we encourage people to just keep growing, and we love seeing our students succeed, especially like Jenny and Ryan, the investors for this month. Great job, guys.
Thanks, Nelson. A great job coaching there too. Good for you. Okay. Okay, we're coming to this point where we talk about strategy sessions. And guys, girls, anybody listening, when we talk about a strategy session with you, during that session, we will share many strategies that will help you whether you join us or not. We give you a lot of content and a lot of good ideas, and you will see the value there. These are our contact emails. If you want, just take a snapshot on that. We're going to have them back up again when we finish our chat here. And we're just drawing to a close now, and just a couple other things we want to put through. Just remember, guys, decide for yourself right now, any of the guests that are on here, did COVID happen to you, or did it happen for you? If it happened to you, you're going to be staying at home watching Netflix and wondering, oh, poor me. If it happened for you, you're going to seize this opportunity. If you've not been allowed to work during COVID, that's telling you something about the work you do. Real estate is an essential service. Our business has never been more flourishing. Same with the realtors all over town here. Unbelievable years they're having right across the country because of COVID. And our business grew because everyone's at home and they're adding in an essential skill which will carry them through anything like this ever happening again. So make a plan. Make your plan now for 2021. Make this the best year you've ever had. Learn something new. Make a decision. We're looking for decision makers. Book a strategy session with us. Attend the next meetings that we have. Our next meeting is on May 31st, and we've got some regular meetings that we're going to be talking about that are happening right now. We want to get you the results. This is a picture of everybody who's ever been on our team. You can see all of the faces that are online here right now in there and others as well. Many of our proteges are in there with us, showing their successes. This is what we prefer is our students, our proteges, their results speak volumes. We can tell you all about us, but it's not about us. It's about you. And what can we do for you? What can we help you do? So let's move on. Okay. This is something new that we've introduced just over the last 60 days or so. Took a long time developing it, but we do have an online course now Interactive lessons done very, very well. It's a web-based system. You can do it from any device, wherever you're at. You learn at your own pace online. It seems overwhelming a lot of times when people start looking at it. But when you break it down to just layer some basic stuff, and then put on top of it essential information about investing, and then create interactivity. This is how you learn. It's easy to interface, and it's got built-in accountability. So we don't even have to call you and ask you how you're doing. We can see, okay? So that's available right now. Talk to any of us, we'll tell you about it. We also have and introduce our new course, our Commercial Investing Secrets. Now, this is in its beta form at that price. What we mean by that is it's done roughly, it's available. We're preparing all of the videos and audios so that it's a complete interactive course like our Residential Secrets course. This is the commercial investing. This beta price is available right now for anyone that wants to take it for the beta, and you will get the complete version sent to you or available to you when it's developed, included with that price. You can buy it now for about a quarter of what it's going to be. Okay, onward. This is the Bird 2-for-1 Coach Mentor team here. Every Tuesday nights, we started a coaches panel. Oh gosh, many months ago. I think end of July, it'll be a year since we've been doing it. 8 p.m. every single Tuesday. We have guest speakers. We talk about various different topics. And the people who join us there get 2 or 3 coaches for the price of one. Myself, Keith Gordon, Vishal Guliani. There's Vishal's email right there for the Zoom link for Tuesday or Saturdays. Tomorrow's topic, banks versus private hard money brokers. Which is better? Which makes more sense? Okay. And we're going to be talking about this with our very own teammate, 2-time Investor of the Month, and in the year 2020, teammate Investor of the Year, Ala Bernstein, our guest speaker tomorrow night. You want to attend that. Everyone's invited. Okay? Now we're going to just open up any questions and answers. Okay, anybody got any questions for anybody in particular? Just word it out. Unfortunately, Brendan's on to his next event. Okay, and up here again is the emails for all of us. Okay, get a hold of us, arrange a strategy session. If anybody has any questions right now, shoot them out. Anybody, type them up, type them in the chat box. Let's have them. Any questions? Keith, any questions? You always got questions.
Well, I was going to say, I fired them all at Brendan today, and I'm very pleased to say that I actually managed to stump him on one that he had to look it up. So I was going to say we'll be sure to report back on the Facebook page with all the answers there. So no, that's everything. So okay, thank you very kindly, Vern, for all your emceeing work this evening.
Yeah, we do have a question here. Okay, from Indira, how do you see investing us with financial changes coming, Chris? I'm not sure what that question is. How do you see us investing with financial changes coming, presently maybe? Financial changes coming? Yes. Well, let's, how do we see investing? Well, funny you should say that.
They are in the US, so it was basically to do with the change in the White House.
Okay. Yes.
Going from a Trump administration to a Biden administration.
Yeah.
And Trump was very pro investment.
Yeah. I do have some articles coming to me to help us with our meeting tomorrow night. I did not get them this afternoon. And it deals with that very question. Okay. So Indira, if you could attend our meeting tomorrow night, I'll have that documentation with me and we'll go into that. As well, I am a US, I do coach in the US as well. And what state are you in? If you could type that in here, I could maybe throw some knowledge on it just from my
Ohio.
experience. Ohio? Okay. In Akron? Yeah. I've been in Akron and done some business there. I myself personally, there are going to be a lot of things like what started to happen. Let's just talk about that for a moment. When COVID hit us, okay, everything that they predicted was going to happen did not happen. It did not. Now we're paying through the nose for our properties that need fixing. We're paying 3 and 4 times the cost for materials because of the shortage, because nobody's making new supplies, all this stuff. This was unforeseen, that part. So to predict accurately what is going to happen, the Bird 2-for-1 mentor team predicted this. When we found our market here so hot, we stepped sideways and started looking at properties no one was looking at. And that's how the examples you saw tonight, all of them, we got them at decent prices because we looked sideways. We looked at it differently. And that's what we're going to have to do with regards to any upcoming changes. A lot of times the ripples from those changes take anywhere from 6 to 9 or 10 months to really come into play. And that's when we'll know. We will know later in the year. But my thoughts are to go more and more and more into multifamily. Okay. For other students' knowledge, yeah, winds are more winds. Okay. Yes, that's right, Chibisar. Thank you. And for other students' knowledge, what techniques are students using to find private deals? We use many different techniques. The cash for your house letter, all those things, that's us all over town. Referrals, to me, referrals are probably the best that you can do. Every time that you're working on a project, take your cash for your house letters with your text and email on it and give it to the 12 houses across the street, the 12 on each side of your house, the 12 behind your house, and let them know that you're looking for other properties in the area that need fixing.
Yeah, those are going to be warm. The referrals are warm, so the people aren't defensive.
Yeah.
They've been introduced to you.
Yeah. Okay. Ohio. Yeah. Reset investor advice. Cash changing. Yeah, that's true. Okay. U.S. and money warning. Cash out of banks. Trillions given. I remember the last time they gave them trillions down in the U.S. Some of those bankers wrote themselves some $30-40 million bonus checks.
Yeah, Vern, you and I were down there in 2010, weren't we?
Yeah, and the bank still took all the houses, you know. But yeah, okay. Indira, if you could contact me with your full contact information. I know I sent you the link for tonight, and we'll chat some more tomorrow, okay? We'll talk privately and we'll talk more about your local area there. I'll look up some of my stuff from my team there. Okay, how far are you from Akron? Let me know that too. Okay, any other questions?
What is the first step for a student to start investing in the U.S.? I would say that's an entire meeting's worth of a topic, wouldn't you, Vern?
I would say contact Vern for that one. That's a whole meeting though, yeah.
Yeah, we're getting off track here for tonight because we're dealing with residential here in Manitoba for tonight. But we'll talk with Indira hopefully tomorrow during the day or evening. We'll make time to talk with you, Indira. Okay.
Yeah.
Send me
So
your contact.
we'll see you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central Time, which would be 9 o'clock Eastern Time.
Yeah. Come to our session tomorrow. But send me your text and your email. Make sure I have it here. and we'll go from there. So if there's nothing else from anybody else, let's wrap it up for tonight. Keith, anything further to add?
No, thank you very kindly to Brendan Mahatu for such a great and in-depth meeting.
Oh,
So
super meeting. Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you. We'll see you guys all tomorrow, hopefully at the Zoom meeting.
Take care, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Good night.